Welcome to the latest podcast with Rob Staton and Robbie Williams, looking ahead to this latest game for the Seahawks against the New York Giants. And Robbie, I feel quite confident about this game for the Seahawks. I think going into it, if it wasn't for the Daniel Jones injury, then I would look at this game very, very differently. I think that the Giants have been building some momentum. They are well coached. They play games very close. They've been a tough out in a number of games. You know, they're not a pushover by any stretch. But I had a chance to watch a lot of their game against the Bengals of the weekend. And as soon as Jones went out and Colt McCoy came in, you know, with the greatest respect to Colt McCoy, he just doesn't look like he's going to get it done. I mean, he really struggled to complete any passes. The offense just ground to a halt straight away. So I think my approach going into this game is I'm going to assume with confidence that the Seahawks probably are going to win this game, or that at least they definitely should win this game. The priority for me is to get out of it with the right result and with no injuries. And I think the key thing for this game more than anything is rotate your players, not to the detriment of blowing the game, but rotate your players, keep them fresh, be prepared to give some of the younger guys some extra playing time, and try and manage these next two games while also getting the job done. Because we saw in the Monday Night Football game, there was a number of key players who got, you know, people like DK Metcalf were down at one point. Dwayne Brown was down. Carlos Dunlap's picked up this foot injury. There's already some lingering issues with people like David Moore and Tyler Lockett, and Shaquille Griffin's just come back. Chris Carson's only just come back. So I think health, more than anything, in these next two is going to be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it on just the health and then the aspect that they're well coached. I mean, Colt McCoy came in and he didn't look very good, and I don't think they were really prepared for that. But, you know, they get a week now to prepare with Colt as quarterback, and, you know, we just need to be prepared to come in and really get after him. You know, he's more of a game manager. He's not a gunslinger. He's not going to throw it deep down the field. So hopefully we can push up a little bit, you know, stop the quick slant routes and, you know, button hooks and things like that, and make sure that we're just getting after the quarterback. I am a little worried about the Dunlap injury, and hopefully, you know, going forward, like you said, just make sure we stay healthy, because this is going forward against these teams. We need to make sure that, you know, we want to come out of it, you know, fairly healthy, you know, going against that Rams game. So this is really important. But like you said, this is a well-coached team. I don't expect the Giants just to roll over. I expect this is going to be a game where they're going to come out with some fight, and they're going to want to, you know, prove some doubters wrong. And, you know, they're still in the mix to make the playoffs as well. So, you know, I think they want to come in and try to, you know, make a statement game against, you know, one of the, you know, NFC's leading division team. So we just need to come prepared and make sure that we are well coached as well, and not, you know, game planning to down to our level of opponent, and that we actually up our game and really get after it.
I wouldn't even play Carlos Dunlap in this game. I don't care. You know, I know that they're already talking about, is he going to be able to play? They don't know if he's going to be able to make it or not. I'm guessing they probably have made that decision, Robbie. They're not going to say it publicly. I wouldn't even go anywhere near playing him in this game. It's just not worth the risk. Listen, you don't want to risk losing a game against the Giants, but if you can't beat a Colt McCoy-led Giants team with Russell Wilson at quarterback, then, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, like this, you're not going to be able to win in the playoffs. You know, you've got to find a way to get this job done without Carlos Dunlap. Get your feet up, Carlos. Have a couple of weeks off. Washington, that would be a good game to come back in, and those final three games. Look, the Washington football team are kind of like what I would have said the Giants might have been prior to this Daniel. They're no pushover either. You know, they're going to be right in the mix. They're probably the favourites for that division now. That's not even a probable thing. They are the favourites for that division because of Daniel Jones' injury. So when you go there in week 15, they're going to be hell bent on winning that game. They're playing well, got a good defense. Alex Smith is doing enough to just make things tick, which is what he's always been about and what he's done very, very well in his career. So, you know, get Dunlap back for that game. And if there's anybody else, you know, to be perfectly fair, if Chris Carson has to sit, I'm down with that as well. You know, just get these guys healthy. You know, you should have enough with Russell Wilson at quarterback. When you look at the Giants team, Robin, I've watched them a few times. I don't know why I've seen them a few times this year. Seem to have watched quite a lot of the Giants. Maybe it's because I knew that they were down the line, and I'm kind of intrigued by the fortunes of the two New York teams. When you actually look at them, and when you actually look at where their strengths are statistically as well, you know, they force a lot of turnovers. They've got the fourth most turnovers in the league. They're in the top half for sacks. Good run defense. They've got a very well coached defensive system here, very disciplined as you'd expect from this is a Belichick disciple who seems in Joe Judge, who seems like he's going to go on and have a terrific career, unlike Matt Patricia. But I'm not saying this after the fact. He's been fired. Never been a big fan of his anyway. He was always in charge of a New England defense. It was always like ranked 30th, 31st, 32nd in the league, and just seemed to get a lot of positive publicity because of the fact he's a rocket scientist. I think Joe Judge has got the right kind of stuff in the same way Brian Flores has down in Miami as well to get this going. And the defense looks very, very good. You've got Russell Wilson. You've got DK Metcalf. You've got Tyler Lockett. You've got other complementary weapons there that you should, for me, with Colt McCoy in this game, I would just say, go out there, play Carroll ball football, because let's be right, 17 points might be enough in this game, Robbie. Even as bad as this Seahawks defense has been without Carlos Dunlap this year, you really should be sort of thinking, look, you're not going to need to stick 30 to 35 points on the board in this game. Play a proper, sensible game. Let Russell Wilson pick his moments. If you go 3 and out and have to punt them the ball and play field position, do it. Just keep your guys healthy. And if there is one thing where there is a weakness for the Giants, they're not quite as good in pass coverage. They've got weaknesses at cornerback. Make this a big DK Metcalf game, just as we saw Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, the offense needs to play a lot better than they did this last week. I mean, going against a team like this who does have a good, better defense, and this should be a good game for our tight ends as well. I think we can really attack their linebackers as well. And if we can just get the ball into the hands of our playmakers early instead of trying to get cute and run really deep routes or whatever, like just get it into their hands quickly. Let them make plays. Get down the field, get a couple first downs. As soon as we put a couple of points on the board, if we get up on a 2-touchdown lead, like this is a game that you want to put scoreboard pressure on them and really make it to where they're forcing to have to throw the ball a bunch with Colt McCoy. And, hopefully, going forward, we can do that and, just give Russ the keys and let him cook this game, because this is a game where we should just attack. And like you said, just try to come out healthy though.
It's interesting. I don't know if you ever play around with this, Robbie. The ESPN playoff predictor thing. When it gets to this time of year, it appears, and it always gets a great roaring response from the public, because it gives you a chance to sort of try and predict the way that things are going. And I had a go, and to be honest, I just found it the AFC playoff situation. It seems quite easy to predict. There's a lot of games where you can kind of got a good feeling for it. The NFC is just so unpredictable. So I think a lot of people have suddenly assumed that, well, New Orleans are the best team in the NFC and New Orleans are going to get, the number one seed. People forget New Orleans are going to play the Chiefs. So I'm not sure that a Taysom Hill-led Saints team is going to beat the Chiefs. And then that's them dropped a game. I mean, if Taysom Hill plays like he did last weekend, they may well drop a couple of games. I think they're playing the Falcons this weekend. And all right, they give the Falcons a big beating with Taysom Hill at quarterback the week before last. But the Falcons also showed against the Raiders that they've got a real chance of sticking points on the board and challenging opponents. They're a bit streaky, Atlanta, but very capable of beating anybody on their day. And then you look at Green Bay. Green Bay are playing like divisional games and stuff like that. Yeah, they beat the Bears. But as we've seen from Green Bay, they hammer the Bears, but then can equally chuck a game away or be hammered by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, I think there's at least a couple of games where the Packers could potentially lose. But then I kind of look at the Seahawks as well, Robbie, and you could easily go through the whole schedule and go, well, they're going to win that game, they're going to win that game. The problem with that, and I would feel this way as a Seahawks fan or not as a Seahawks fan, is that what have the Seahawks shown us so far this year that makes you think they're primed to win out? And if they were to win the rest of their games, what would that be? A 7-game winning streak to end the season? What have they shown so far to really make you believe that that is a strong possibility? And that's what I want to see, I think, in these next 2 games. I want to see a convincing win. You're not going to come away from a Giants game or a Jets game thinking we've just seen the Super Bowl champions because they've absolutely dominated this. If they win 40-0 on Sunday, we won't think, We've just watched the future NFC representative in the Super Bowl. But what we will have from a win like, not 40 points, but if let's say they win by 15 or 20, and by the fourth quarter, Geno Smith's taking snaps instead of Russell Wilson. When's the last time that happened, by the way? When's the last time the Seahawks could put a backup quarterback in to preserve the keys to the franchise? You know, it'd be great to sort of have a weekend where that is a possibility. Can they just go and win a game like a champion should? And if they do that in these next 2 weeks, then maybe we can be talking ahead of that Washington game. Like, yeah, they have got a chance to win out. They have got a chance to be the number one seed. And one other quick final point. I want your views on that, Robbie. I also want your views on this. People are saying, is it better to be the fifth seed than the first, just so you can play whoever wins the NFC East, possibly a 6-win team? I hate that kind of rhetoric. That idea that you're better off by not winning your division. And then, yeah, you might have a slightly easier wild card game. But then guess what? The following week, you're playing one of the top two teams on the road in the NFC. And you've got no momentum, really, because you've not won your division. And guess what? Washington on the road in January, I don't really fancy that game any more than I would fancy playing whoever in Seattle in wild card. Or if you get the number one seed, you get a bye. You know, there's a reason why the Seahawks have only ever got to the Super Bowl when they've been the number one seed. It's a real advantage, not playing that extra game, having a couple of weeks, being able to rest up, being able to game plan. You're going to have a good idea of who you might be playing. You can have two separate game plans going, and then you can refine it once you know who you're going to play. The absolute must is to target number one. And when you've got a run of games like Seattle has, it's realistic. It's not a pipe dream. Even if they don't play their best football, they could still be the number one seed. I think they've got to go for that. Forget 5. Forget playing the NFC East in the playoffs. Get number one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love that like, oh, it'd be better to get the 5th seed either, just for the simple fact that we've seen it happen, and Seattle was on the end of that. We were 7-9 going in the playoffs, going against the Saints, and the Saints thought the same thing. Oh, we're gonna go to Seattle. They're 7-9. They're not a good team. And then Beastquake happened and all these things. And next thing you know, you got a one-armed Matt Hasselbeck leading the charge. And, this is not, I don't want to go in as a 5th seed. I just think that's just silly. And yeah, for me, number one seed or bust. We just really need that number one seed. Unfortunately, the Saints were gift wrapped a game this last week and given a Broncos team that didn't even have a quarterback, which still pisses me off that they were able to do that. They rescheduled the Ravens Steelers games multiple times just to make it happen, but they wouldn't give the Broncos a chance to reschedule and whatnot. I still don't understand their whole COVID process on that. I don't get it. And then if you look at the Saints going forward, they've got the Falcons, who should, they just whooped up on the Raiders, but again, it's the Falcons, and who knows what you're going to get with them. They should be able to win that game. And then they've got the Eagles. Clearly, we saw that they're nothing too special, so they should be able to win that game as well. They close out against the Chiefs. Very tough matchup, obviously. Probably going to be, the Super Bowl, front runner there. And then you've got the Vikings, who are playing really good right now. And, they're not going to, they could be right in the mix of it as well and not want to give up. And then they've got the Panthers. So they've got a stretch of the final 3 games that are going to be pretty tough for them. So, but we're counting on them to lose because that's the situation that we're at. They're 9-2 and we're 8-3. So we need them to lose a couple of games just to
I think
get that number one seed.
If Seattle wins out, they only need to lose 1.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's great. We need them. It would be easier if they lost 2, but let's just take it for what it is. I'm still upset that they were basically gift wrapped a free win. So anyway, but yeah, I don't like the idea of the 5th seed, and I think this should be you should go for winning every single time, and it's really going to come down to that Rams game, I think. And I think if we could stay healthy, get through this stretch and get to that Rams game, this is going to be where it's really going to be the biggest struggle for us is beating that Rams team, because it's been a struggle for a few years now. So we need to figure out the recipe for beating them.
And what do you think about this whole, that we're not going to see the Seahawks, suddenly vault up to number one in a power ranking, whatever they do in this game. But, you know, it certainly would give you a lot more, it would give me a lot more belief and confidence that they can cause some trouble in the postseason to see a really convincing win. I don't think we've had a convincing win really in terms of the scoreboard since Atlanta. So, and that was week one. And clearly the Falcons, look at how they started, they were a mess. So I want to see a 10, 15, whatever point win here, Robbie, this weekend. And I want to see the same the following week. I want to see Geno Smith throwing a football or handing a football off this weekend, right? Because that, to me, is the only thing we can glean now to say, yes, the Seahawks are primed to go and do what these other teams can do. I know that the Chiefs would blow the Giants away. I think the Steelers would. I know the Steelers are playing a tight game tonight against the Ravens, but it's the divisional game. Ravens' season's on the line. You know, I think the Steelers would win this game handsomely. I think that the Titans would. I want to see the Seahawks do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a blowout win and something that's super comfortable for us, you know, as fans. But I think just in general, I would just like to see us like come out and just put a dominating performance on and just not play down to a level opponent, right? Like not play down to, you know, Eagles, like the Eagles team. I felt like we played down, even though we got a lot of sacks and everything. I still felt like they were right in the mix, and you know, it was frustrating. It was just very unsatisfying win for me, and I'd like to see something where we come out, really get after it, really put the pressure on them, build up a huge lead, and then put the gas pedal on and keep going. Don't just like try to kill the clock and run sweeps like last time, and really just, you know, give yourself no opportunity to put more points on the board. I want to see them score a lot, and I want them to see them put a lot of pressure on Colt McCoy and make him beat us, because this is one of those games we should win. I mean, we should win easily. And I'm going to say this probably again next week as we play the Jets, you know, but you know, I wanted to see us go, or next week, the Jets.
Yeah, it's next week. I sincerely hope you will be saying it's an easy win.
Yeah, right. So
as I said, the Jets have got no motivation to win. They need to lose and lose to get Big Trev in the building.
So yeah, I mean, it's just put the pressure on. I just want to see them put a full game plan together where special teams, offense, and defense all come together and just play well through 4 quarters and just put a dominating performance on and just like give us no worry and just have it be a relaxing night.
Sounds good to me. Looking at the schedules for the set, I mean, I think it's the Saints, the Packers, and the Rams really are the main competitors, aren't they, for that number 1 seed? So the Saints play the Falcons in Atlanta. You know, we'll all be watching that, hoping the Falcons can continue where they left off last week. They then go to the Eagles, who just look like a basket case team at the minute. I mean, the season can't end soon enough for the Eagles, really. Then the Saints host the Chiefs, which will be a very interesting game. And look, nobody should assume. I guess I'm kind of assuming the Chiefs are going to win that game. The Chiefs have played a lot of close games, as well as they have looked at times. They've also kind of drifted through spells in games. And Patrick Mahomes has been quite fortunate with a few, possible interceptions that haven't, either flags have called them back or they've been dropped and stuff like that. So they've still got to go and get the job done. But then the Saints have the rematch with the Vikings in the playoffs last year. The Vikings can cause anybody problems. We saw that in Seattle. They're also very capable of losing to Dallas at home. But I'll tell you something now. If there's 2 teams I don't want to play in the playoffs, Robbie, it's probably the Niners and the Vikings, because the Niners are very well coached. And we know that they can play the Seahawks. And the Vikings, with Dalvin Cook and Thielen and Jefferson, and Kirk Cousins is annoyingly okay, in certain games. He has his rough moments, but he also has some really good moments too. And we've already seen what they can do in Seattle. So I kind of want to avoid those 2 teams if possible, which, you've got a good chance of doing that if you get the number 1 seed, unless they win their first playoff game. So that won't be a pushover for the Saints. And then the Saints finish on the road to the Panthers, who, again, you never quite know what you're going to get from the Panthers. They've had some good performances, some bad ones, but there's definitely the potential for the New Orleans to lose a couple of games there. And while they look very good on this long winning run that they've had, it's easy to forget that at the start of the year, there were a lot of questions. I think they started 1-2, and they've kind of won every game since then. But people were doubting them very, very early in the season, and I still think there's time for things to change again for the Saints, particularly if they have to play Taysom Hill at quarterback. Looking at the Packers, they play the Eagles this week, so that's virtually a bye for them. Then they go to Detroit, and that's going to be a different type of battle now because obviously Darrell Bevell is the head coach, the interim head coach there. Good luck to him in that game. But maybe that just, Raheem Morris has inspired something in Atlanta, and you just wonder whether Darrell Bevell could do the same for the Lions. And there's maybe people like Matt Stafford have got something to prove now. It's pretty clear that people like Stafford and others did not enjoy playing under Matt Patricia. Well, he's gone now, so you're kind of putting tape out there for whoever's next, the next GM, the next head coach. If you want to stay in Detroit, if you want to be the face of the franchise there, you've got to perform. So hopefully they can nick that one. Then they play the Panthers. Maybe Christian McCaffrey will be back by then. I think they played each other last season. It was a very close game because of Christian McCaffrey. Then they play the Titans. What's the one thing that the Packers don't do well? Defend the run. Well, King Henry's there. So we'll see how they're going to. And then they finish the season in Chicago, whose season has collapsed. But again, it's a divisional game. Maybe it'll snow or something like that. And there's also the chance that Aaron Rodgers will pull a hamstring or something, which he seems to do every other year. So you never quite know what they're going to do. So basically, the point I'm making, Bobby, is the path is there. You couldn't ask for a better stretch run. A couple of division games to finish the season where you can put your own, and the toughest one of the two. Actually, let me take that comment back. I wish I could edit that out. Not the toughest one of the two, but the one against the opponent that you struggle against the most, let's say, is in Seattle as opposed to LA. And then you've got 3 games where, you would expect them to win the next 2. Washington's tougher than it was a few weeks ago, but it's still a game that a serious playoff team should expect to go and win. So it's all there for Seattle. Can they do it? Can they do what they couldn't do last year and finish? They lost the last 2 games last year. They finished 11-5. They finished second in the division. Can they win the division, finish, make sure the Super Bowl runs through Seattle in the NFC? That's the big question, Robbie, to show whether this season is any different to the last few.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why things went so smoothly for us last week. Arizona losing, and then the Rams losing. So it's the only thing that didn't go well for us, other than is the Saints getting that gift wrap win. So I mean, things have been set up for us. I mean, it's right in front of us for the taking. We just need to go out and take it. I mean, you can't ask for anything better. We got a bunch of teams that aren't very good in front of us, and then you finish it off with 2 division opponents, which by no means are going to be easy games, right? I mean, we haven't beat the Rams. And you remember last time we beat the Rams, to be honest. And then, we got the Niners, who aren't going to be pushovers. They want to play well, and Kyle Shanahan is after it. And I know we won this last one, but man, we need, we're going to have to come out and get it. And even if we drop to the Rams, we need to make sure that we're winning the rest of them. And I would prefer to win out and to beat the Rams, because they've been, our Achilles heel. So really need to get after it. But the key, like you said, is just staying healthy. If we can stay healthy and get guys ready to play that Rams game, that's a big playoff game for us right there. Just being able to get them. Because I think if we win that game, that pretty much guarantees us the division, as long as we win out to that point. So yeah. And, the Rams going forward, they've got, they got to play Arizona again, and they're going to have to play, us again. And you start looking at their schedule and thinking about, like, okay, how do they fare sitting at 7-4? And they still have the Patriots and the Jets, but you saw anything could happen there. So they got to play the Cardinals twice still. So should be interesting. Going forward. I just want us to stay healthy. And you're right. I think letting Dunlap sit this game would be perfectly fine, and letting him sit against the Jets as well, and then come back, against the Redskins or the Washington football team. Let Alton Robinson get some snaps in, and Benson Mayo and all those guys who are hurt now. Let's get those guys rotating and playing. I don't want to see Benson Mayo playing 90% of the snaps, but 50% of the snaps, fine. Let's give him that. See how it goes. And it's there for the taking. We just got to go do it.
Yeah, from the Rams' point of view, I mentioned the statistic of the weekend that Sean McVay is 11-2 against Pete Carroll and the Cardinals, and has got a crap record against Kyle Shanahan and the Niners. You see, I think the Rams will beat. I think the Cardinals are a distinctly average team and should have a losing record. If it wasn't for that Hail Murray, they would have a losing record right now. And if the Seahawks hadn't blown, the game in Arizona, which should have been an absolute doddle in that fourth quarter, then the Rams would be 2 games behind 500, and that's kind of what they are. I just think it's too soon. You can't. Let's not forget that the Rams, the season before last, earned the number 1 overall pick. And Kyler Murray has done a terrific job to drag them from the worst team in the NFL to something that is competitive and a lot better than it was. They've still got a long way to go. You know, they're probably another couple of years from being anything like a serious challenger. And I don't think they do a good enough job on the front office level to build. I mean, the Hopkins trade, A+. Everything else, not sure. They've really invested in spending the kind of money aside from Hopkins to really build that team and make that defense better than it is and stuff like that. I'm not sure. So with the Rams,
it's one of those divisional games, right? Where divisional games, you just never know, just because they play each other so close. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like
they've got such a good record. I mean, McVay must be unbeaten against the Cardinals because he lost to Seattle in 2017 and he lost to Seattle in 2018. I think it was sort of the game early in the season in 2017. He lost to sort of it was the Sheldon Richardson game where, you know, he had a sack and a fumble, and it was something like 12-7 in the end. I think it was like a pick in the red zone right at the end, and that won it for Seattle. And then there was obviously the game not 2019. So it was last season, wasn't it, with a missed field goal from Greg the Leg, which was the other one. So if he's 11-2, he must be, you know, and he's got 5 wins. So it must be 6 wins out of 6 against Arizona, which kind of suggests that they've got some secret sauce there against the Cardinals. Although they've only played Kyler Murray twice, haven't they? But then they play the Jets, which is the bye week. The Patriots will be interesting for the Rams because obviously the Patriots did a great job of shutting down the McVay system in the Super Bowl. And they've got the Seahawks. And what I was the main sort of thing with the Rams, Robbie, is if the Seahawks win the division and lose that Rams game, that is going to be the most. I'm barely going to be able to raise a smile about that. It's like, well, you won the division by beating the Jets, the Giants, Washington, an injured Niners team, and then the likes of Atlanta and Dallas and New England and, you know, Philadelphia. It's like, come on, you've got to have at least one win that you think that is a legit win. And there's only really the Rams game left now where you're going to, if they win it and you say that is a legit win. And it's high time they beat the Rams. They're 1-5 in the last.
What does Troy Aikman say though? You can only play who you play.
But they're playing them. You know, they're going to play them. You know, they're 1-5. You know, they can't. If we turn, and they're 1-6 against the Rams after that game, even if they win the division, a serious question has to be asked about this ridiculous record against the Rams. They've got to win a bloody game against the Rams. You know, the Niners have beaten them twice this year with half a team. You know, it's like you've got to beat the bloody Rams for God's sake. So hopefully they are going to beat the Rams, and then that's great. If they just win out and beat the Rams, we're going to be very pleased with the NFC West. If they win the NFC West and lose to the Rams twice, it's going to be like, you know, no, I'm not even want to think about that. They'll leave that for week 16. Let's have a prediction, Robbie. What are you thinking for this Giants game?
Yeah, you know, I think the Seahawks are going to not play down to the level of opponent, and I think they're going to come out and get after it. I'm going to go 32-13 Seahawks.
32-13. Wow. I've never heard of such a score. You know,
that's right.
It's about 7 years since the Seahawks won a game like that. I think it's going to be a lot lower scoring than that, and I think the Seahawks will manage the game sufficiently well. I'm going to go for 23-6 to the Seahawks. I think, you know, I can see maybe the Giants getting a couple of field goals in there. I'm just not. Maybe they will end up getting a touchdown. It'll be 7 or it'll be 10 or something like that. You know that kind of a score. Yeah, I'm going to give them a touchdown. So we'll say 23-10 Seahawks. But that'd be fine. You know, and Geno Smith out there taking a snap that isn't a knee in the fourth quarter. I will raise a glass to that on Sunday if it happens. Before we finish, Robbie, I don't know if have you seen the news, and you may well have seen it if you watched Jamal Adams' press conference after the game. Are you aware that he has a fashion coach named Alan?
I read something about it, and then I stopped reading. I saw like a little bit and was like, I don't care. I don't want to know.
I think the best thing about this is that the fashion coach is named Alan, which is such Alan's usually the kind of name you'd expect for somebody who works in an office, is the quiet bloke who kind of brings his own sandwiches to work and, doesn't really say much. And, Alan as a fashion style coach, it's not usually you expect a name like Fernando or something like that. Not necessarily Alan, you'd think he'd put some extra letters on the end of Alan to make it sound a bit more interesting. But I love the fact that Jamal Adams was asked about, first of all, that this is the state of the Seahawks media, that he was actually asked a question about how much time he spends on his game day outfit in the build-up to the Eagles game. But then was even asked a follow-up question about it after the game as to whether the hoodie he was wearing was a recommendation from Alan. And then Jamal Adams didn't like the follow-up question and bristled. And he was like on the front foot in this press conference and started having a go at the guy who's asking it and saying he knows how to dress himself and it's not a big deal. No, we all know about Alan now, Jamal. We all know you have a fashion coach. You've got to own it. You've got to live with it. I have no idea what was going on in that Jamal Adams press conference on Monday night, by the way. He was throwing haymakers at everybody.
Listen, Jamal Adams has a fashion coach. Russell Wilson has a fragrance line with Sierra. Things are just weird right now.
This is not the old Seahawks, is it? Can you imagine like the Legion of Boom coming? Brandon Browner having a fragrance or a style coach, or Cam or Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch was the most unique thing about Marshawn was the Skittles thing. That's kind of cool. It's kind of good. And now we've learned this week that he also had a shot of Hennessy before a game.
A shot and a half, maybe, of
Hennessy. A shot and a half.
Oh, yeah.
let's not underestimate that. It was a shot and a half to get him through a game. And now we have, a perfume. And
by the way, how great was that? That Marshawn Peyton Manning thing was awesome.
I've only seen the 40-second clip. Have you seen the whole thing?
No, I mean, just that 40-second clip was awesome. I didn't need to see much more. If they have more, then I'll definitely watch it.
What an odd couple, You imagine a day with those two together.
Yeah, that was perfect.
But let's finish on this, because somebody brought it up on the blog, and I think it's an interesting topic. I think Marshawn Lynch probably should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, because when I think of, the last decade of NFL football, there are a few players who define it more than Marshawn Lynch. And in fact, I think many players from that great Seahawks team should reach the Hall of Fame very quickly as soon as they're eligible. I would even say Cam Chancellor as well. I think these players are at the forefront of what the NFL has been about for the last decade, and they should make it. But Lynch in particular, the success that he had, the character, the personality, the culture, the Beastquake 2, winning a Super Bowl, the fact there was that huge drama about the fact that he didn't get the ball on the second, in the second Super Bowl. Everything that he has done, for me, the NFL isn't the NFL properly without Marshawn these last 10 years. I think he has to get in. I think within 2 or 3 years, he has to get in, unless otherwise the whole thing is a sham. Yet there seems to be this kind of debate, Robbie, as to whether or not he's even a Hall of Famer. I've heard John Clayton talking about, I might get in. It's like, well, how can he not get in? He should be straight in there for me. He's as worthy as anybody.
Yeah, I don't know if he's first ballot, but I mean, he's definitely second ballot. I mean, he should be in there within a few years easily. He's an incredible football player. I mean, he set the tone for the whole Seahawks run. I mean, yeah, our defense was great, but Marshawn did so many great things for Seattle, and I would be shocked if he didn't make the Hall of Fame. I mean, in my opinion, hands down, he's going to the Hall of Fame.
The only reason why he wouldn't make the Hall of Fame is that they would be scared to death of the speech that he would deliver. And I don't think you could put that on before the watershed. Get ready with the bleep button, because if he even turned up, that is. I always wondered whether or not Marshawn would be interested in raising the 12-man flag one day. I hope he would. I hope they do it on a day like a really big game as well, Robbie. But I don't know whether it'd be his kind of thing. But I hope he does do it one day, because that would be an unbelievable experience. And I hope I'm there when it happens, because seeing Marshawn raise that 12-man flag will be something special.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there for many of the great ones, and that would be top 5 for me, easy, if he did it.
Okay, that is as far as we go for today. We'll speak to you after the game. Good luck to the Seahawks this weekend. Let's hope that it is an easier weekend than we've had for like the last 2 years. There's barely been a stress-free game, so it will be nice to have one of those at the weekend. Don't forget to check more analysis on Seahawks Draft Blog. There's a new mock draft on there at the minute, an article about why I think Richard Sherman should be reunited with the Seahawks in the off-season. You can get into that conversation if you want instant reaction from Monday Night Football as well. Join in the comment section there. Like and share the video here on YouTube. Let us know what you think about the Giants game in the comments section too. And we'll see you after the game.